Students, in this video, we will be discussing three important topics of Unit 1, that is factors affecting international business, restraining forces for international business, and modes of entry into international business. These three are most important topics, and we will be discussing each topic in detail. First topic which we have, that is factors affecting international business. Now, this topic is what are the various factors through which international business is promoted, and we are having list of factors. The first factor which we have, that is regional integration. Now, regional integration is when a country enters into an agreement with its neighboring country to have a common terms for doing business, for a trade, when they agreed on a common terms. So that is known as regional integration. So it is the need of the hour when there are two countries and they want to promote their domestic industry at international level. So it's a basic thing what they do. They enter into an agreement with its neighboring country and they lift the restrictions which were there. So through lifting of restrictions and entering into a common agreement, make trade free. So it become a restrictions are lifted, trade has been become free. So the export and import get increased. So international business get promoted to regional integration. So we can take an example of NAFTA. NAFTA is North America Free Trade Agreement. This agreement is between three countries, that is United States, Canada, and Mexico. As it has been known that the manufacturing activity at Mexico is much cheaper than Canada and United States. So we can take an example. Suppose US is the market where the price of the product are higher than Canada and Mexico. And one Canadian firm want to sell its product into US. And before selling it need to be manufactured. Now way to manufacture, since the manufacturing cost in US and Canada is higher and Mexico has cheaper manufacturing cost. So since these three countries has an agreement through which all the legal restrictions of movement of labor and goods has been lifted. So through this, the Canadian firm can easily set up its manufacturing unit in Mexico. Since Mexico has minimum manufacturing cost, so Canadian firm establish its manufacturing unit in Mexico. Goods are manufactured in Mexico. Mexico is not a great market to sell. US is great market to sell. So what the Canadian firm will do now, the goods which is being manufactured in Mexico will be transported to US and those goods will be sold out in US. So the Canadian firm easily set a manufacturing unit in Mexico and easily transport it to US and start selling in US. So all this has been done because these three nations has entered into a common agreement through which the transport, the movement of goods and movement of employees has been liberalized. So there is no legal restriction on it. And through this, the international trade has been increased. So we can imagine that Canadian, if there is a legal restriction and Canadian firm want to establish its manufacturing unit in Mexico, so lots of legal proceedings need to be followed, documentation need to be done. So all those procedure has been avoided. Same thing when the goods manufactured in Mexico need to be sold in US market. So US going to charge some sort of tariff, legal restriction that should be complied with. So all those things has been right off and become a free environment through which international trade between among these three countries are raising. So regional integration somehow fuel international business. Second factor which we have, that is declining trade barriers. Most important factor. If you want to promote international business, barriers should be eliminated or declined. Something should be done. Either of the things should be done. So it's happening in current scenario. The tariffs which we are charging, and the legal documentation which we are demanding to be done earlier has been minimized or abolished in current scenario. So tariffs has been reduced, and documentation has been reduced so that international trade get promoted. We can take an example how tariff impacts international business. Uh, in the last couple of years, US uh, has raised the tariff on the goods manufactured by a company Huawei, and Huawei is a company which is based, which home country is in China. So US has raised the tariff on the goods sold by Huawei in US, and as a result, the products which been sold by Huawei in US has been declined. So that is the example of impact of trade barriers on international business. So if trade barriers, that means tariffs and legal documentation has been declined. So it promotes international business. Next, we have declining investment barriers. So decline in investment barriers is one of the prominent factor through which international business can be promoted. Most of the countries have tried to reduce the investment barriers through which the investment can be attracted. And once the investment is attracted, it results into an international business. We can take an example of India. In 1980s, there's a restriction. That restriction is if any foreign firm want to invest in India, so it has to be invested. The investment should be done through Indian firm only. That means the foreign firm cannot establish their wholly owned subsidiary in India. It has to enter into a joint venture with any Indian company, and the holding of Indian firm should be minimum holding should be 26%. So there is a restriction. There is a kind of restriction that if foreign firm want to establish its manufacturing activity or business activity in India, so that firm has to comply the legal restrictions. That is, it has to enter into a joint venture with Indian firm, and the holding of Indian firm should be at least 26%. So you can imagine that the foreign firm which is coming to India, and this restriction has been imposed on it. So most of the firms are not coming to India. Reason is being, so there's an investment barrier. So we are not allowing investment easily. In current scenario, all those barriers has been lifted, and we can see that lots of investment are coming to India, and that results in increment of international business. Next, we have growth in foreign direct investment. It linked to the earlier factor. So once the investment barriers are reduced, the next which factor which we see uh, increment is foreign direct investment. So through reduction in investment barriers, there is a growth in foreign direct investment. Once there is a growth in foreign direct investment means the international business is raising. Next, we have advancement of technology, most prominent factor, and we can experience it in current scenario. With the advancement of technology, uh, the establishment of uh, offices in host country and physical presence has been completely write off. So you need not to be physically present to sell your good. So through advancement of technology, that means you can promote your product online through online promotion. There is no requirement of physical presence of the seller in the host country. From the home country itself, the seller can sell its product to any of the country, and the consumers are aware of what is being sold in international market. What are the new development? What are the new products being there, and they can demand it. So you can imagine that through advancement of technology, international business has increased phenomenally. So one of the prominent factors is advancement of technology. It can be, we can say that the selling of online products, and one of the example for this advancement of technology and international businesses, we can go through like this. Now there are lots of educational institutions, of foreign education institutions, those who are providing short-term courses, and those short-term courses is being offered online. Getting point? That means the teacher, the educator, the trainer need not to be physically visit the country to deliver its lecture. So they are delivering their lecture online, and through online, the entire world can having access to those content. So they are promoting their short-term courses through advancement of technology without visiting the country in which the course has been offered. And the person who is availing and enrolling for those courses need not to visit the foreign country for enrollment. From their home country, they can itself enroll to the courses which is being offered by some other countries, university or institutes. So you can imagine that through advancement of technology, international base has been increased. You can easily enroll to the courses offered by foreign universities without going there, without visiting foreign countries, and without the educator visiting your home country. So that has been done through advancement of technology. And the last factor is growth of multinational companies. With the growth of multinational companies, international business is raising. Multinational companies are those companies which are operating in more than one country. And if there is a growth in multinational companies, it directly indicates that international business is raising. Next topic we have that is restraining forces for international business. Now, what are the various factors which somehow decline international business, which impacts international business in a negative manner? The first factor which we have that is culture. Culture is the major restraining factor for international business. uh, Most of the consumers are so much linked to their culture, so that the products which they are going to consume or use somehow been affected because of cultural factors. There's a valid example for this. That's initially the McDonald have established its outlet in India, and they have uh, offered a product that contains beef, and in India we don't consume beef. So so the product is not being well accepted by the consumers. So there's a cultural difference. Getting point? Is it right? So there's a cultural difference. Because this cultural difference, uh, uh, international business get impacted. Like in India, we don't serve wine with the products of McDonald. McDonald doesn't serve wine in India. But other than India, uh, except in Asian countries, in most of the European and US continent, they generally serve their product with wine. So that's a cultural difference. And somehow culture impacts international business because the international firms are not well aware of the culture which has been prevailing in the host country. And without adequate knowledge of the culture, if they start selling and promoting their product in the host country, so it become a setback for them since they have not understand the culture properly. And without proper understanding of culture, the international business get hampered. Next is competition. International firms face competition with the domestic firms, and through that competition, since the domestic firms are well aware of what the consumers are demanding, what are their need, and they can easily cater the needs of the consumers since they are interacting them, they belong to the same country, same culture, same environment. So they are knowing what the consumers wanting, and they manufacture products accordingly. When the international firms enter to any host country, so they're not well aware of what consumers are requiring, what they're demanding. So they face a tough competition with the domestic or local manufacturers. That is one of the restraining factors. Next is national controls. In some of the countries, most of the economic activity is being controlled by the government. So government controls the manufacturing activity, entrepreneurial activity. So in that case, international business are not promoted in that particular area where the government controls that particular activity. Like in India, the ordinance activity, arms and ammunition is being controlled by the government. So no private players are allowed to manufacture it. So that's something national controls. Uh, uh, impacts international business. Next, we are having a nationalization. So nationalization is it's kind of feeling. It's not. It's a kind of feeling that we being a consumer and we being a national of a particular country, we are having a feeling that we should consume the goods manufactured by the firms which belong to our own country. Goods manufactured by the foreign firm should not be consumed. So this kind of feeling somehow hampered international business. Like in recent time, we are having a trend that the product manufactured by Chinese firm, the services offered by Chinese firm should not be consumed or availed. And that is a setback for international business. So Chinese firms are facing a tough competition if they want to promote the international business in India. So the nationalization, the idea of nationalization, the feeling of nationalization somehow setting up a negative remark for them, and they are not able to promote in a full swing, which they can do if this feeling is not there. So nationalization somehow impacts international business. Next, being political factors. Political factors means each government, each political government and political parties has their own psychology, own policies, ideologies, and through that ideology, they promote certain products, they promote certain business, and they try to make a restriction from some sort of business. So if there's a stable political environment and they are having a broad-minded approach through which international business can be promoted, if they are not having a broad-minded approach, they are not having a kind of vision through which international business can be promoted, so it become a negative or negatively impacting factor for international business. Next, we are having a cost. Establishing a business activity in foreign country involves loss of cost. So most of the firms, those who are not able to bear that cost, won't be able to enter into international business. So cost is another factor which impacts international business in negative manner. Next, we are having a various modes of entry into international business. So it's a long list through which a firm can enters into international business. Each mode have their positive and negative remarks. First, we are having export. Export means you're selling your product to other country. So selling product to other countries is known as export. Export can be done through two manners. That is direct export and indirect export. Direct export means when you're directly manufacturing and selling to the foreign consumers. So that is known as direct export. Indirect export means when you're selling your product through a mediator. So means since you are a manufacturer, you don't know who is the buyer. You're selling your product through mediator. So that is known as indirect export. So export is one of the prominent mode of entering into international business. If you are having a good financial background, you are financially strong, you are having a good manufacturing activity, your product is well accepted, you should go for direct export. So through direct export, you are having a direct access to the international market. You know who is your buyer, what are its requirement, and you can manufacture and customize your product accordingly. Since you're directly dealing with the buyer itself, so your margin can be higher, but it involves lots of investment. Sometimes you have to sell your product on credit. Sometimes your payment get blocked. Sometimes you have to comply with lots of legal documentation for shipment. So lots of legal formalities and risks involved when you're going for direct export. Next, we have indirect export. Indirect export means when you're selling your product through mediator. So there are lots of manufacturing firms, those who are manufacturing a good quality product, but they don't have either financial background, they are not financially strong, or they are not aware of all the formalities and procedure of selling product international market. So what they do, they generally contact the mediator, like buying houses are there, and through buying houses, they're selling their product to international market. In indirect exporting, you don't know who is your buyer. You don't have direct access to the international market, you don't know what are the requirement of the international buyer. The margin which you are charging is very low in comparison to direct export. So there are lots of merits and demerits involved in export, and based on the features available with you, you choose whether you should go for direct export or indirect export. Next, we are having a contract manufacturing. Contract manufacturing means when you are not having your own manufacturing unit, you subcontract the manufacturing activity to someone else, and that through that you are trying to sell your product. The best example for this is Bata. Bata is not an Indian brand, and he don't have any single manufacturing activity in India. All the products which is being sold by Bata is being manufactured through contract manufacturing. So what Bata has done, all the shoes, slippers, all the products is being manufactured by the local manufacturers. They labeled it as Bata, and the Bata sold those products to the consumers. The major benefit of contract manufacturing, you need not to invest in manufacturing activity. What you have to do, you have to transfer the manufacturing activity to someone else. The major setback for contract manufacturing is quality issue. You share the quality standards with the contract manufacturing, but there are chances the contract manufacturer doesn't comply to the quality standards. So in that case, if your product is not of quality product, so your brand going to suffer in that case. So contract manufacturing is one of the best way of entering into international business. If you don't want to invest major funds in manufacturing activity, you don't have time to establish manufacturing activity. In that case, you can go through contract manufacturing. Management contract. Next mode is management contract. Management contract means when you transfer or assign a step of entire manufacturing process or business process to someone else. So that is known as management contract. Management contract is very common in UK. Let me give you an example for this. Like in UK, there are lots of firms, lots of legal firms are there, and to if you do drafting work. So drafting work in UK is a costly affair. So what those big legal firms has done, they have assigned that particular step of drafting work has been assigned to the country which are good in drafting. Like India, lots of drafting work, legal drafting work is done in India. The UK legal firm assigned their drafting work to us. So through this international business, you have entered into international business. So Indian firms which are good in drafting, so they have entered into international business, and US firm has assigned their one of the step of their entire business process to someone else. So that is known as management contract. Next, we are having licensing. Licensing means when a firm assigned license to someone else, uh, and through that license, they are allowing the other party either to use their manufacturing technology for manufacturing of the product. So that is licensing. Like for example, there is a manufacturing firm who manufacture spare parts, accessories for automobiles, and the technology through which they are manufacturing accessories, the technology is Japanese technology. So what Japanese firm, the original uh, firm who has developed that particular technology, has given a license to the Indian firm, and that Indian firm is through that particular license are allowed to use the technology developed by the Japanese firm. So Japan licensing is one of the mode of entering into international business. Next, we are having franchisee. Franchise is most prominent, easy to handle, easy to operate kind of approach. In this, the investment is very low. If there is low investment, we are having a good brand image. Product is well accepted by the consumers in most of the countries. In that case, you go for franchisee. Franchisee means when you are allowing someone else to use the name, the product, the process, and you are charging for that. You're charging a fixed amount, you're charging a regular interval, you're charging a regular interval, a royalty. So anyway, you're charging something, and what you have done, you have assigned, you have allowed someone else to use your name, yeah, the process which you have developed, and through which that other party is selling, like McDonald. So McDonald in India is operating as a franchisee. So McDonald don't have any outlet which is been owned by the McDonald. All the outlets of McDonald's are operating under franchisee agreement. In franchisee agreement, McDonald has allowed to the franchisee owner to use the brand name of McDonald. The process of manufacturing of the product has been allowed, and McDonald's is charging a royalty, a fixed one-time royalty, inter installment, anything. It can be anything through which McDonald has entered into most of the countries. Turnkey projects. Next is turnkey projects. Turnkey projects means when the entire process has been assigned to someone else, and someone else is doing the entire project for you, and you are coming in and start operating that particular project. So that is known as turnkey projects. You turn the key and you start using the project. So turnkey project is one of the mode through which you can enter into international business. Next, we have wholly owned subsidiaries. Wholly owned subsidiaries is one of the mode through which you establish your manufacturing activity, your presence in the host country. So what you do, you generally either establish or acquire any of the existing company, which is your wholly owned subsidiary. Through that wholly owned subsidiary, you make a presence in the host country, in the foreign country, and you start selling your product. So that is through which this is one of the mode through which you can enter into international business. For establishing a wholly owned subsidiary, you need to be financially sound. You need to have a unique product. In that case, you can be a successful one. Next, we're in joint venture. So entering into international business, the another mode is joint venture. Joint venture means when you enter into a common agreement with any of the player of the foreign country, and through this you're providing your services, you're manufacturing, you're selling your product jointly. So that is not a joint venture. Like Honda enters into India and they have a joint venture with Hero. So it become a Hero Honda. Same way Suzuki entered into India and they had a joint venture with Maruti and become Maruti Suzuki. So joint venture is one of the mode of entering into international business. Lastly is merger and acquisitions. In today's scenario, we don't have time. We have money, we have resources, but we don't have time. So what we generally do, entering into international business is we generally acquire any of the running profit making firm and we start generating revenue. So merchant acquisition is one of the most accessed and applied mode of entry into international business. This you doesn't establish any manufacturing unit. You what you do, you generally acquire already established and profit making manufacturing unit and you start generating revenue. Like what Tata Steel does. Tata Steel acquired Chorus, a UK firm, and they start and they have easy access to the UK market. Like in the case of Mittal Steels, Mittal Steels acquired Asler Steels, a French firm, and now the Mittal Steel, which is UK-based firm, has easily access to the French market. So what they are doing, they are generally going for merger and acquisition. Through merger and acquisition, you easily access to the international business.